Good morning, Dr. Wacker. My name is Mike Mattox. My paper is on should income tax rates be flat. Year after year, people dread April 15th because that means filing their taxes. Every election that comes around, whether it's congressional or presidential, people run around the country touting their ideas of how to reduce your taxes. People love to talk about how to fix the income tax system, but yet it only seems to get more and more complicated and less fair. Congress seems to have forgotten that this country was founded on the principle that all men are created equal and that we all are entitled to equal protection under the law. So how is it you can have one person paying 9%, somebody else paying 25 or even higher, sometimes up to 40%, yet somebody paying nothing at all? Why is it fair that people, groups, or companies get loopholes created for them just to reduce their tax bill? Now, I'm not even going to get into what they call the redistribution of wealth. How is it that the IRS can have this Byzantine-like labyrinth of tax laws, but yet if anybody innocently makes an error on their taxes, they're held like criminals? Even if they hire somebody to do the taxes for them, they're not protected under the current system. As of the writing of this paper, there are approximately 480 various IRS forms and schedules. And that doesn't include the 280 that sets of directions on how to fill out those forms. As of 1998, the IRS sent out 18 billion pages of forms and instructions. That's equal to 300,000 trees. The cost of doing that was $700 per person, or $200 billion. And to make matters worse, it cost the American economy another $200 billion just for people to complete those forms. Over the years, there have been many different versions of the flat tax, but the one I'm going to talk about is H.R. 1040. I know, you got to love the name, don't you? It's otherwise known as the Army-Shelby flat tax. And under H.R. 1040, it calls for the entire flat tax system to be thrown out and replaced, the entire tax system to be thrown out and replaced with a flat tax. Those 480 forms I talked about earlier would be replaced by two forms, both about the size of a postcard, one for individuals and one for companies. There'd be a minimal amount of deductions, and after the deductions, everybody would pay 17%. Think about it. No long forms, no boxes and boxes of receipts to keep track of. You don't have to have college level calculus. If you can add and subtract, you can do your taxes. How simple is it? It's real simple. Take your wages. You're given an allowance of $11,600 if you're single, just shy of $15,000 if you're head of household, or just over $23,000 if you're married. You get $5,300 per kid. You subtract those two amounts off your wages, salaries, and pensions, and that's your annual tax bill. Deduct off any taxes that they've already taken out of your paycheck. If the number is positive, you owe the government. If the number is negative, the government owes you money. Now, some people say, well, what about the poor? Well, my question is, why is it fair that the poor should pay less taxes than anybody else, if any taxes at all? Same thing for the rich. They have tax accountants and tax attorneys and tax preparation people that all spend their time trying to figure out how to minimize people's tax bill. Under the flat tax system, H.R. 1040, there would be no child care or earned income credits. Local and state taxes will no longer be tax deductible. Same thing with mortgage interest. Remember, the purpose of the tax system is to collect revenue for the government, not to give some people or businesses special treatment. Now, some people say, well, our taxes would go up. That's not really the case. I looked at the standard deductions under the current system versus 1040, and for a married couple with two kids, under the current system, if between the two of them they made $100,000, they would pay $20,500 in taxes. Under the flat tax system, it would be reduced to $11,288. And as for the poor, if a household brings in $25,000, under the current system, their tax bill is $1,190. Under the flat tax system, their tax bill would automatically be negative $1,462. Again, that's if they're married with 2 kids. Now, some people say, well, if we change the system, the Congress is going to turn around and just change it again. Under H.R. 1040, it would not require a simple majority to make any changes, but what's known as a supermajority, or 2/3. Now, considering Congress can barely agree on what time to break for lunch, the chances of them getting 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate to both agree to either raise the rates, to shrink allowances, or to create loopholes. So think about that. Every year, you know what the rules would be. No having to relearn all the different forms and deductions and this, that, and the other. Some people ask, well, what about the self-employed or the businesses? The self-employed, it's real simple. They got one postcard to fill out for themselves and one postcard to fill out for their business. Businesses would benefit because instead of having to amateurize capital investments under H.R. 1040, the National Flat Tax System would allow them to fully deduct any capital investments they make. Same thing for purchases for inventory, wages, etc. Under this system, it would encourage people to invest and save because H.R. 1040 does not tax any income derived from investments, from capital gains, or from savings accounts. Our founding fathers envisioned a land where all citizens are created equal under the law, without privileges given to or denied to any group or person. Later in this country's history, the government found it necessary to institute a national income tax in order to balance the budget. Since then, from time to time, they've tried to better the tax code and in the process made it harder to comprehend, less fair, and has enabled politicians to give loopholes to groups or businesses in exchange for political favors. In the process, a multi-billion-dollar industry was created in the form of tax preparation services and lobbyists. And somehow, the average citizen was left to pay the bill. At the very least, the government owes, and all the people are asking for, is a level playing field. Thank you.